Does BTS's Jin really feel like he's just a burden to the team? Why did the laughter of the staff turn into shameful silence? And what did Jin end up doing to make everyone silent and fans cry? Is this a subtle satire or a cry that has long been held in silence? Is it possible for a global star with millions of fans around the world to feel useless in his own team? Is it possible for an idol who is always smiling on the screen, harboring wounds and doubts about his place in the world that he helped build? What really happened behind the laughter that was heard loose on the set of Tim Kian's Bizarre B and B? And why, just because of one act of the genie, the atmosphere of laughter suddenly froze and turned into a guilty silence? This is not just a joke that goes to the limit. It's not about the usual lighthearted jokes thrown between teammates. It's about something much deeper, more personal, more painful than anyone who witnessed it could imagine. And in the middle of it all, there's Kim Seokjin, the worldwide handsome, standing alone, smiling as ever, but hiding something that ends up exploding, not with anger, but with a sincerity that makes all who witness it hold their breath. It all started with one light scene, which was designed full of jokes and antics. The show, Tim Kian's Bizarre B and B, is famous for its funny and relaxed atmosphere. But who would have thought a small segment involving Jin would actually be an emotional turning point that fans would talk about for weeks to come? At that time, the staff were distributing random tasks to the guests. Some tasks such as cleaning the kitchen, tidying up the room, to serving new guests were read out with laughter. Then, Jin's name was called. And right then, one of the staff said in a joking tone, Jin? Yes, it can be a burden, huh? Laughter broke out. The room was filled with loose laughter, including some guests who accidentally laughed because they felt this was part of the script or maybe a light joke. But in the midst of all the laughter, only one person didn't laugh. Jin. He just smiled a little. Very small. You could even say, a made-up smile. And it was that second that became the starting point of everything. Did the staff really mean to insult? Or is it just human stupidity that forgets that even stars as bright as the Jin have their own fragile sides? Or could it be that this was not the first time Jin had received such insinuations? No one knows for sure. But what happened after that was completely unexpected. Jin did not reply immediately. He does not get angry, does not fight, does not raise his voice. He just walked slowly towards the kitchen, took an apron and gloves, then began to work alone. Not with an annoyed expression, but with a biting silence. He washes the dishes that accumulate. He sweeps. It is mopping the floor that was originally muddy by the coffee spill. He even repaired the sloping shoe rack without being asked. None of the staff told him. Not a single camera pointed at him for those few minutes. But he kept working. In silence. In solitude. And one by one, the laughter began to fade. Each of the staff began to notice something that they had not noticed before. That their jokes are not just funny. That the load joke they threw turned out to be more piercing than they thought. One of the producer's assistants reportedly cried quietly in a corner of the room. Another crew member, who had previously laughed the loudest, was seen looking down and trying to occupy himself with tidying up the cables, even though there were no tangled cables. Then Jin stopped. He stood in the middle of the room, put the mop down slowly, and stared at them. If I am considered a burden, I will make sure my burden is not felt by anyone else, he said. Not in an angry tone, not with sarcastic intonation, but with sincerity that strikes anyone who hears it. And no one spoke after that. And that's the point when silence really rules the room. Did I ask Jin teasing himself? Or does it just show how deep the wounds are? Did he feel useless, even in the eyes of those who worked with him? Does he feel forgotten because he has been absent for too long due to conscription? The questions just came up. It was inevitable. Shortly after the incident, the video was leaked to the internet. A short clip of the genie working alone, interspersed with a now very cruel joke load, spreads like wildfire in a dry meadow. Armies from all over the world reacted instantly. The hashtag Jin you are not a burden became trending in a matter of hours. Thousands of open letters were sent to HYB and the show's production team, expressing support for Jin and harshly criticizing staff jokes deemed highly inappropriate. But in the midst of all the storms, Jin chose silence. He made no clarification. He didn't post anything. He was only seen once in a short video uploaded by BNB staff, sitting in the courtyard feeding the birds. But the fans noticed one little thing. There was a small piece of paper next to it that was partially legible. "I don't want to be the center of attention. I just want to be appreciated as a human being." Is this a letter written by Jin? Or just a random note left behind? No one can be sure. But that sentence was enough to make many fans cry. A few days later, HYB released an official statement that all members of the show's staff had apologized personally to Jin and stated that the incident was a great lesson for them about the importance of respecting their fellow human beings, especially an idol who has been giving happiness to many people. But the question still hangs. How many injuries has Jin endured so far? How many times has he had to hear that he is less useful just because he is not like the other members who continue to be physically active? Is this the first time you've heard this joke? Or is it the first time you've seen it on camera? Even more surprising, some fans collected pieces of old clips showing similar patterns. Jin is often used as a joke about lazy, can't dance, the oldest, or too relaxed. And although he always laughed, now fans began to see everything in a completely different perspective. Have we all ignored Jin's voice for too long? And more importantly, will this be the moment of Jin's awakening to start talking about his own feelings? Because after that incident, Jin began to show a side of himself that he had never opened before. He writes songs. The song has not yet been officially released, but the lyrics have already become widespread. One of the most viral stanzas is, "They laugh when I am silent, but in silence, I hold back the world." The song will be his next solo single. And if it is true that it is the work of the genie, then the world will soon know how deep the feelings that he has been keeping in his calm smile. The question now is no longer about staff jokes, but about how we as a public, as fans, as human beings, can be more sensitive to the wounds hidden behind the laughter of others. Because Jin may be an idol, but he is also human. And that day, amid laughter that turned to silence, he finally showed that he was not a burden. He was a light that had been too bright for the eyes busy laughing to see, and now all eyes are on him. Not because of his handsome face, not because of his popularity, but because of the truth he ends up revealing silently, but sounding louder than anything else. After completing the entire household chores that didn't even belong to him, Jin quietly left the set and returned to the room without a word. No cameras following him, but one of the staff, feeling guilty, decided to check it out. What he saw there made him shiver, not because of anger or regret, but because of such deep sincerity. Jin was writing something, a letter, not for managers, not for the company, but for the entire event staff. The contents of the letter were leaked hours later, whether intentionally or not. But what is clear, the letter contains the contents of the heart of the Jin are so honest and striking. It does not demand an apology. He does not fight with hatred. He actually thanked me. "I know you're joking. I know you mean no